Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's some great comments I'd like your perspective on here too, George.
Yep.
Darwin said, considering the generations transition, boomers, millennials, and Z, estate and gold will be performing worse. There's also people talking about, I mentioned the idea of diminishing returns. I think this kind of plays into it too. Well, in my theory, basically, is that change, large change happens over generations. Like it literally happens from death, and the wealth transfer that happens. Um, and I see wealth getting put into more and more people's hands that understand Bitcoin, and everything that they save in goes into Bitcoin, and it's just rapidly going up. So I think the diminishing returns, I think the law of large number won't have as much of effect as the rapid adoption of a new monetary network like Bitcoin. Like we just haven't seen the adoption of Bitcoin as a monetary network yet. But I think when we do, that's law of large numbers doesn't really matter on that. Like, I mean, it'll play an effect, but it won't matter as much. So I think the trend of diminishing returns will reverse, and I think it's largely because of generational change. So
Yeah.
I'd be curious to hear what you think about that.
I mean, it's something that I'm probably most bullish about in Bitcoin is the fact that if you consider, like, if you looked at your analytics right now and it might be different for us because we're kind of that age right now, but like the Bitcoiners, I think the average age of a Bitcoiner would be between 30 and 50 for the most part.
Probably, yep.
And I think that the people who are 30 to 50 right now, our parents are of the baby boomer generation. And a lot of that, whether it's in the stock market, whether it's in houses, whether it's in gold or precious metals,
God
we have a
forbid
lot of
bonds.
bonds, right? And it's like you have so many people who are our age right now who are getting into Bitcoin, and they're like selling their 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 couch, their second chair in their house. They're selling everything that they can to buy Bitcoin. And all of a sudden something happens, whether they just get some stuff gifted to them, whether it's an inheritance, but all of a sudden they have this huge influx of assets essentially that they've been waiting on. They're like, oh my God, I can finally make a huge dent in Bitcoin here. And imagine how many instances we're going to see over the next decade of baby boomers passing their assets down to us, essentially, the millennials and the people who are taking Bitcoin the most serious right now. It's not going to stay in those assets for very long. If I inherited some gold or a house or something, it would probably take me a week and it'd be converted into Bitcoin. And there's so many instances like that, which is just going to be kind of the next, I think, huge piece of adoption and growth in this market.
Yeah, I think you're right. And the other thing with that too is that means selling the other assets, which is going to make those assets
Exactly.
perform not well, right? Like if everybody's all of a sudden trying to sell their house, which I've seen a lot of. I mean, again, echo chamber,
Yeah.
whatever, but what's that other term? Um, yeah, it's not statistical necessarily. It's more anecdotal evidence, I guess. But I know a lot of people that are selling their homes, selling their rental properties, renting instead, and buying Bitcoin and leveraging with debt. I mean, it's just getting crazy. It's getting crazy because every people that understand it recognize, like, I need to get as much of this as possible while I still can, while I have this opportunity that's historically going to be incredibly relevant. Like there's, you look at those old history books and you see like, oh, JP Morgan and Carnegie, and Rockefeller, like they took these opportunities that they had, and then they saw where the world was going to go, and they just went all in on developing the railroad, and they bought all the other competition. They took so many bets to like build up this historical generational fortune that we still talk about when we look at those black and white photos. People are going to be looking back at these podcasts and these characters that are in Bitcoin and be like, oh wow, these people saw it and these people stacked relentlessly, and it's just going to be insane.
And you're going to need a good security team for us.
Yeah. Yeah, we all are. We all
Some big
are. And
walls.
yeah, some big walls. Yeah, and some good security protocol too, which I think will be developed more and more as it becomes more and more of an issue.
Yeah, that's the
Um,
other part too, is like back when they were building this stuff, it was a lot harder, I think, to keep your wealth, because even at that time they had the 30s where they confiscated a bunch of gold or made it pretty much illegal for individuals to own gold. But now with the tools that we have available with Bitcoin and how that works and how you're able to protect it, it just, I think you said this one time, it just raises the cost of violence significantly to the point where it's not even, worth it for somebody to try to steal somebody else's Bitcoin. And
100%.
and it's only going to get better.
Yeah. And unfortunately, so, and there's a big spectrum of how secure people's Bitcoin is.
Yep.
A lot of people have Bitcoin on hot wallets. A lot of people leave it on exchanges. A lot of people click emails that say they're from their exchange when their email address is slightly different on it. And oh, my wallet's in jeopardy. I got to move it to there's a lot of low hanging fruit right now still for scammers and people trying to steal people's Bitcoin. As I think some of those will begin to dry up, and as Bitcoin becomes more valuable, known figures with Bitcoin will become more of a target. But I think there is time, but I think it's a good idea to get ahead of. I think both of us are really aware of like
Yeah.
the need for exceptional security when it comes to this.
I
Yeah.
think more than anything else, that's what you and I spend most of our time on in Bitcoin, is thinking through these things.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you want to be ahead of it. You don't want to have to think on your feet when this has actually become a problem. You want to think of the potential problems and have solutions for them way ahead of time. It's really the only way. Like it's what Bitcoin teaches you to become like a thinker, somebody that can think into the future.
Yep.
For the aspect of it giving you hope and potential for the future, because you can now save your wealth. You need to take that same ability to look into the future positively and look into the future in, in creatively putting yourself in the scenarios of what is possible in a security risk.
Yeah. And when you were talking about guys like um, Rockefeller, Carnegie, all these guys who took a massive bet, they had to see they, I think of visionaries. That's how I see Bitcoiners.
Visionaries.
And anybody who understands Bitcoin is a visionary, because the whole world's telling them they're full of shit, right? But they know they can see it in their own mind of what's going to play out here. And I think having that ability is so unique at this time. It's easy to buy things when it's running up and everybody else has it already, but it's like for somebody to be here now and to envision the future. Imagine if those guys were around right now, how much they would be into this thing, because they bet on oil, they bet on gold, they bet on real estate in some circumstances.
Hmm.
But imagine if they had something that they knew was truly fixed, and how hard they would work to get a portion of that, because these guys were producing or manufacturing, I guess, oil, producing it, looking for gold in the case of Rockefeller. In New York, some of the prime real estate there, they took these massive bets on these assets, but they also knew that there's going to be more of it. There's going to be more real estate made. There's going to be more gold discovered in the future. If they had a fixed asset like Bitcoin, I can't even imagine of how much harder they would have went, if it's possible. But it's just such a unique dynamic here in Bitcoin with the absolute scarcity.
Yeah, and it's the same archetype, the same person is Sailor. Sailor is the
Yeah.
prime example of this. He's doing
Yep.
everything that he can to buy as much Bitcoin as possible, and he's wrapping it in a corporate wrapper that is investable to the public. That's exactly what those guys would be doing if they existed today. And they seemed aware enough of the time of the potential of these technologies and products. So I'm assuming they would get into Bitcoin and crypto. And eventually, everybody that gets into crypto eventually ends up in Bitcoin because they recognize the innovation. But yeah, it's like they're those archetypes, those people, they exist today. We might not recognize them for what they are because they're not historical figures yet, but they're definitely here.
Yep. 100%.